Hello Laziali all over the world, welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. If Taty Castellanos would have played every time against Frosinone, he would have been easily top scorer of the Serie A. Unfortunately, Lazio would play only twice a season, and who knows if next season we will play against Frosinone again. And so Taty Castellanos, Alasdair scored twice, and last time he scored was against Frosinone at home. So 2 games against Frosinone, 3 goals for Taty. Not bad, eh?
Why does he hate Frosinone so much? Is there some backstory we don't know about?
It was funny because Di Francesco said the guy that scored twice today, he scored last time against us. It looks like he's waiting for us to score, right?
It's a shame it's against Frosinone, because if it was against, Milan or someone and they haven't been paying attention, they might think, this guy looks pretty good. We should make an offer of, 45 million euros this summer. Let's get this guy in. Frosinone probably aren't going to afford a bid for Castellanos.
But again, I think he touched the ball. The first 3 times he touched this ball, he scored with a header. He had an incredible chance to run him an unbelievable save, and then score again. So not bad for the first 3 touches. Unfortunately, he didn't continue like that. But what a start.
Well, he set up Alberto. That should have been an assist for him at the end as well. That was another amazing Taty save on Alberto.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to give him credit. I mean, obviously, we're already laughing a bit about the guy, which is a bit unfortunate. But after the season he's had, this is exactly, we do need to give him credit, because this is exactly what we've been complaining about him not doing, is coming off the bench and having an impact on games. And for so long now, months and months and months, we've been complaining about when Lazio are in trouble, Lazio aren't playing well, start games badly, and the subs come on in the second half, there's very little impact. And you just can't say that about the game last night. I mean, he completely changed the game. So you got to give him credit. And I really liked the reaction as well, his celebration where he kind of ran over like half the length of the pitch to get the team together and kind of make a show of solidarity after the crazy week we've just had. I think it was nice to see him taking the lead with that as well. So, yeah, great day for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was nice, as you were mentioning. He waited for all the team. Even Mandas came there on the bench, and they celebrated together. You can see even Ciro Immobile there. So it was a nice sign they sent to the rest of the world. Again, it was a very, very complicated week. A lot of issue in the Lazio. We're going to talk about that, obviously, in this podcast. But before we go there, Alasdair, Ciro started, didn't play that well, had 2 chances. I would say in the first one, Turati made a good save, nothing special, but a good save. On the second one, he could have done better. Taty Castellanos comes in. Last time he scored, I thought, was January or December against Frosinone. And immediately, 1 goal, another chance, and he closed the match. Is that the turning point? Is that will Frosinone Lazio be the game we will remind ever, saying, hey, that's the game where Ciro lost his starting job and Castellanos finally show his talent?
No. I would be amazed. I mean, look, we've got to be, like I say, we've got to be complimentary of Taty for making such an impact. But I just think over the body of evidence from this season, there's very little to suggest that is a sign of a huge turnaround, a sign of greater things to come. I don't think there was all that much in his performance to suggest that's about to happen. And also you have to remember that the run of games we've got coming up now is Juve twice. Okay, Juve are probably the next biggest crisis team in Serie A after Lazio right now, but still it's Juventus and the derby as well. I mean, I would be very surprised, given what we've seen from Taty so far this season, if suddenly he goes on an absolute tear and starts scoring goals against the biggest teams in Italy. It's good. It is good timing for him to have a performance like that, though, because it was getting to a point where, well, the podcast before last, that's when we were discussing, like, what do we do with two strikers who aren't scoring? Let's think about something else. Let's think about Anderson through the middle or a change in formation or whatever. It was getting to that point.
Yeah.
So it is good timing for him to kind of remind us that he does know how to score goals occasionally.
Yeah, we have to mention, Alasdair, that this was a very, very complicated week. We didn't mention it at the starting of the podcast, but just to give people an idea, you know who was the deputy of Martuscello that was the first manager on the bench against Frosinone?
I don't think so.
Nobody. We didn't have anybody. You know who helped? You know who helped Martuscello preparing the squad?
Oh, because they all resigned before the game.
Yeah. Sepe.
Yeah, right.
So Sepe, the second goalkeeper, was organizing the team on the free kicks and on the corner kick. We have to say he did an amazing job, right? We score on a free kick and on a corner kick, which didn't happen. I don't remember since the Sven-Goran Eriksson days, I think. So, but to give a little bit of context to the people at home, Sarri left on Tuesday. On Wednesday, all his staff quit. And from Wednesday, when Lazio started training again, focusing on Frosinone, till Saturday, it was Martuscello, who was the head coach, let's call it like that. Fonte, that was the fitness coach, the only one left, and the goalkeeper training that was from the Primavera last year. This was it.
Yeah, and that's why it was on the players, wasn't it? And that's quite interesting, because it was so much. It was a week where there's been so much pressure on the players, so much kind of, well, anger directed towards the players since Sarri resigned. Some of that going over the top, which I think we'll get onto. But it was really up to them to deliver. There was no other way around that, because there was no one else to blame anymore. You know, Sarri's gone. He's pointed the finger at them. Martuscello is basically just there, you know, as an, well, interim isn't even the right word, I don't think. I mean, he was just there to have someone there, essentially, wasn't he, before Tudor arrived. So it was just up to the players to just go and actually deliver a performance against one of the worst teams in the league. What did you think? Did they deliver a performance? I mean, they did win a game, which is huge, because that's not been happening recently. It was away from home. They're a tricky team, but potentially, ideally, it wouldn't be quite as quite as close as it was, I guess.
Well, the first 35 minutes of the game, it was a nightmare. Frosinone looked like Real Madrid. They scored pretty much after 30 minutes, something like that. They had a chance before. They had the other two easy chances, I would say, to score again. And then suddenly they make an incredible mistake, and Lazio equalize at pretty much the first shot. And there the game changed again. You can see that Frosinone is a team that has lost confidence, because after Lazio equalized, and to be honest, we didn't deserve that. We had a couple of very good chances, and this is where Ciro Immobile comes in. And, you know, the old Ciro would have scored one of them, absolutely, I think. No doubt about it. But it didn't. So the second half, Lazio played better than Frosinone, but you could still see this team is struggling. It's I think what happened during the week had a huge impact on the team. You mentioned the Ciro situation. So for people who don't know what happened, why does Lotito talk? I think this is the biggest problem we're having at the moment. So Lotito said that pretty much the players were responsible for Sarri leaving, right? They say that they didn't trust him, and Sarri paid for everybody. And so the day after these words, Ciro and his wife were, how can we put it? accuse some. I don't know, because it's not clear what really happened. If someone insulted Ciro and his wife, or maybe tried to steal something, I don't know. I didn't understand. But surely it had an impact on Ciro. We have to condemn this episode. Obviously, there is no justification whatsoever, right, Alistair? But I think this had a huge impact on Ciro's performance and behavior going forward.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, like you say, it's a bit unclear what happens. Definitely, he's been accosted by some people. I mean, in the flesh. I'm not talking about online abuse, although I'm sure he's had plenty of that as well. But I mean, he was with his kids, wasn't he? From some of the reports I read, and I think it's totally unacceptable. Obviously, like you say, but you're talking about Ciro Immobile as well. Like, I just don't understand how people can have such short-term memories, even if you're upset with the guy about what's happened with Sarri. He's like Lazio's all-time top scorer. He's an absolute legend of this club. How can people not give the respect that deserves, even if you're not happy with the way things are right now?
Yeah, Lotito said that the players were traitors, right? That's the reason why Sarri quit, because the team wasn't responding again. But as we mentioned on this podcast, Ciro is not the same player of a couple of years ago, right? Luis Alberto is not performing at the same level. But I don't think they were playing against the manager. Simply, Ciro is 34 years old. He's a player that was his biggest talent quality was he was very fast and was able to dribble past the defender, create chance, etc. He doesn't have the speed anymore. So I don't think he ever played against Sarri, obviously.
No, and it's all got very ugly, hasn't it? And I think that the Lotito stuff is just, you're right, he shouldn't open his mouth. And then it wasn't even just that, it was that he also seemed to say something about when the abuse to Ciro was mentioned. There were reports that Lotito then said, I get 500,000 death threats and I don't go and make a fuss about it. Basically, I don't go and start releasing a comunicato. And it's like, how can you not support your captain there? It's such a basic human reaction is to be supportive there, not make it about you. I mean, Lotito is making what has already been a bad situation a lot worse. And that is like so counterproductive for someone in his position. I just don't understand it. The atmosphere wasn't good already, but I think it's going to be even worse now, isn't it?
Yes, and we have to say something. Cataldi, that I didn't think played very well on Saturday, was the only player apart from Castellanos who was forced to talk. And obviously they asked to talk about what Lotito said. And I thought Cataldi was very clever, because he could have started easily a fight and say, the words our owner said was rubbish, it's embarrassing, etc. And he simply said what is very common to say in Italy, when we have these problems, we try to solve it inside our team, our family, etc. We don't go out publicly exposing our issue. So I thought Cataldi was very clever and smart saying this, to not start a fight. But I think next week they're going to have internal discussion, because I cannot believe that the players are happy of what Lotito said. Because basically Lotito said, hey, it's all the players' fault. And we can agree that the players didn't perform as expected, but we can't ignore that Sarri asked for Berardi and Isaacson was bought. Sarri asked for Zielinski and Kamada came in. In January, Lotito said this team is perfect. It's complete. We don't need anybody else. And the results are proving him wrong. So he gets the blame, just like all the other parties, right? The manager, the players, and the owner. They get, I don't know if they split equally the responsibility, but all of them are to blame, right?
Yeah, but is the difference not that with the coach and the players, I guess you'll find a lot of people blaming them, but not everybody. Whereas I think after this has happened, everybody is blaming the club as well.
Absolutely.
I think that is the only part of the three where everybody is on the same page about it. And Lotito's never exactly been a popular owner anyway. But after all of this, I think he's even less popular than he was before. And obviously is not willing to take any of that responsibility by the sounds of it. And that's the kind of concerning thing from a fan perspective, is that if things have gone badly wrong like this, and Sarri, like we were saying in the last podcast, there's a chance for this to be like a positive in the long term if lessons are learned from the big points Sarri has made by resigning. But almost immediately, we seem to have been given an indication that those lessons won't be learned.
Yeah.
But we know who the next coach is, Vittorio, so we should probably talk about that.
I wanted to talk about some of the players, in particular Mandas, who made his not debut because he played the last 3 minutes of the last game, because obviously Provedel couldn't continue, but made his first start in a Serie A game. I thought he played well. I thought, especially in the end of the game, where Frosinone was trying to score and put a lot of balls in the box. Now, we have to be careful. I'm not saying he's the new Buffon, etc. But he showed confidence, which is not easy for a goalkeeper, a 22 years old, who's living probably an experience he never lived before, right? Situation like that where there's nobody managing, etc. I thought he coped well with all this issue, right?
Yeah, and it's continuing this weird theme of the last 2 years, where last year the whole story was the number 2 keeper becomes the number 1 and is done amazingly. And this season it's the number 3 keeper becomes the number 2 and he's done pretty well when he's come in. I think it's just encouraging, because it's almost like it feels like a free new player almost, because nobody really expected anything from Mandas, did they? He was supposed to be the third choice behind Sepe. He's so young and inexperienced that, it felt like a more longer term future signing rather than something for the immediate term. But yeah, I mean, I'm not convinced that he's shown enough for everyone to get really giddy and excited about it, but I think he definitely has looked comfortable at that level, and that in itself is encouraging considering his background. So we'll find out a lot more in the next few weeks, won't we? Although I can't remember how long Provedel is. What, 3 or 4 weeks did they say?
They said 30 days minimum, so I guess he's gonna start against Juventus, I fear.
He'll be back for both Juve games, will he?
Not sure about that. 30 days. He got injured last Monday, so I guess
probably not.
If the international break is not 1 month long, I think Mandas will have to start against Juventus.
Yeah. Well, I think the Juve game's on the 30th, I think. So anyway, yeah, but we'll find out a lot more in those games. I mean, he did well in Derby in the Coppa Italia. I don't think you can really blame him for the goals conceded yesterday, particularly.
Again, what a stupid goals we conceded. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've just to promote to Vittorio Campanile's opinions for a second. You have been complaining for the last 2 weeks about Zaccagni's defending, and then he's really proven you right with that first goal, because everyone in that box just turns around and looks at him and they're like, what are you doing?
Well, you could see the player was going to cross the ball, and there was wide on the left, Frosinone player all alone. And then suddenly you see Zaccagni coming, like, hey, sorry, I'm late. I missed the bus. I'm coming. Sorry. And then the guy heads the ball, and Zaccagni is nowhere close to defend it. So, yeah. And you know what's the thing that drove me crazy, really nuts? The commentator in the second half saying, Zaccagni is playing really well, right? He scored a goal. He's playing really well. No, he's not. You have to defend. He's not Mbappe. He's not Alan. He's not that good that cannot do the second phase. He cannot defend. We are Lazio. Everybody has to do both phases. Zaccagni is not. And this is the second goal. Well, I would say the third goal we concede because of him. So I'm not really happy about Zaccagni, to be honest with you. And this leads me nicely to the new manager question, because Tudor will come in. Lazio will probably play with a 3-4-2-1. And I'm asking you, where does Zaccagni fit in the system? For example,
are we going straight into the tactics before
Yeah.
we talk about the appointment? Okay. I hope he doesn't go to a 3-4-2-1. I think it would be a big mistake to come in and change the way this team plays at this stage of the season. I know everyone's getting excited about this and going around on social media posting their what their teams look like. I don't think this team is ready to play that system. I don't think this team is used to playing that system. I don't think this team will want to play that system. I think that's going to be a big problem if you suddenly launch this team from 2.5 years under Sarri 4-3-3, completely unflexible with that, into playing with a 3-man defense. I just cannot see how that's not going to be an issue. Yes, Lazio used to play with a system like that, but that was quite a long time ago now. The amount of players from that team who are still in the starting 11 are few and far between. And let's not forget how much adjustment it took to begin with to get the team switched from Inzaghi to Sarri's system. I have a bad feeling about that idea, launching them into that system.
I understand, and I have the same fear. I mean, the next Tudor is not lucky because he's coming in and we're playing Juventus in Coppa Italia, the Derby. So the first 3 games are probably the more difficult he's going to play this season. And coming in, changing the system is going to create issue in those games. But at the same time, and look a little bit to what happened with Napoli, right? Garcia, 4-3-3, disaster. Mazzari, he was used to play 3-5-2. He was forced to adapt to a 4-3-3, and it was a disaster. I think if Tudor comes in, you have to switch to the Tudor ball. Let's call it like that. Otherwise,
is he that wedded to that though? Because I don't think it's the same as Sarri is always going to play a 4-3-3, but Tudor has played with other systems in his career.
Yeah, but have played with a 3-5-2. I think he always played with a 3-man defense, which is an issue for me because Romagnoli never played with that type of defense. So he's going to struggle massively.
Yeah, and I just don't think we got the players for it. Like the squad has been built to not have a 3-man defense. I don't understand how we build that team really to make sense, to have the proper balance. And okay, you can maybe use like Felipe Anderson as a wing back because he's good defensively, but you're just sacrificing. You're just putting players into the wrong positions just for the sake of having that strategy, that system.
Yeah, not only we have to point out that if Tudor was in charge yesterday, we would have probably played with Maruzic central defender because Hila was injured, and we just had Casale and Romagnoli. So he would have been massive, not only, but you just signed Isaacsen. Where does Isaacsen fit in the 3-4-2-1 or 3-4-1-2, etc.? Zaccagni, same situation. And Tudor is more of the type of manager as Gasperini. He's man-to-man, not zone defense. I cannot see, for example, Luis Alberto doing that, right?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, like to look at it slightly wider view, I think it's one of many reasons that I just don't think this has been thought through at all. I think it's not the right decision. The Sarri resignation obviously came as a big surprise to everyone at the club. I just don't understand what the hurry was to make a big decision on this, to get someone in.
Yeah.
Like I was saying in the last podcast, to commit to someone to take us to the end of next season and possibly beyond. Just, cool it. Find someone who can guide us to the end of the season. Yes, like I was saying last time, I want that to be a good coach who can actually keep us fighting for the things that are still on offer this season. But realistically, we're not going to find the coach until the summer, I don't think. And Tudor is he's just available and he wants to do it. That's the reason he's got the job, isn't it?
Well,
He's familiar and he's available. Tito seems to like this idea of having a hard manager who's going to kind of come in and what was the word he used? Like the carrot and stick coach who's going to
he's the stick.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. Look, that's probably the main reason why Lotito picked Tudor, because of the stick. He wanted someone that can, control better this team, that it's not behaving well. This is what Lotito is thinking. And maybe he's not 100% wrong. I mean, Luis Alberto behavior in his tenure with Lazio has been bad at the moment. So definitely you need someone better, someone who can manage him better. But this is like the biggest revolution, right? You're moving from a 4-3-3 to a probably 3-4-2-1. You're moving from a zone defense to a man-to-man defense. You're moving to a very dynamic type of football to a more stable and passing the ball type of football. So I fear it's going to take months to get up to speed to that football. So this is right.
Yeah, I think it just highlights once again the just lack of planning at this club. It's something we've talked about time and again in various forms, be that the January mercato, the squad buildings, coach appointments, staff appointments, not having anything ready in time for Alonso, not predicting what moves will be available in the market, not getting contract extensions done in time, losing players on free transfers. Like, there are so many examples of this where there just doesn't seem to be a proper plan in place and everything is done just spontaneously, it seems. And I feel like this feels like another one of those moments, if we're actually wanting to, like, the good thing about Sarri's appointment was that it felt like they're looking a bit further long term, did really well to get him in the first place. He was, I think Lazio messed this up because Sarri was someone who was wanting to be there long term, who was talking about ending his career there, who was kind of understanding the fans and all that stuff. And the idea of then now moving on to the next era, because I think we could call Sarri's a bit of an era, even though it was a small one, and then definitely Inzaghi was. But is Igor Tudor going to be like a new era for Lazio? I don't think so. Not in the same way that it just feels like the next guy, whereas if we got to the summer and been serious about, we talked about Conceição last time, something like that to really engage the fans a bit more. I mean, look, I hope, by the way, I do hope Tudor does well, and I hope I'm wrong about this. I just have a feeling that if he succeeds, it's not because of Lazio's great vision. It's just because he's doing a good job. It's not that they're foreseeing something in him.
Well, I have to be honest with you. I spoke with other Italian journalists, and they all talk very high about Tudor. So they're convinced that he's could be one of the new coming managers. So let's hope they are right. My biggest concern, I was with you, right? I was hoping you take Klose, you try till the end of the season. If it doesn't work, you go on Conceição. People told me that probably Conceição is looking for a bigger club fighting for winning the Champions League. That was my dream, honestly, to have Conceição. So Tudor was probably the only talented manager that was interested. I have to be honest, Alasdair. When I read Gattuso, I was like, God, please no. He's been sacked from every single club in the last 4 years. How can you still be linked to Gattuso? I mean, he failed everywhere he went. This year, how long did he last to Marsiglia? 3 games? 4? 5? I mean, how can you link him? Well, they link even Rabaudi to Lazio. I mean, I don't know if they're playing games or, but some of the names were really unacceptable. Let's be honest. Tudor was the only one that was, yeah, he didn't prove nothing, but he was bringing Verona to the Europe League. Let's not forget. With
Yeah,
Marseille, he did very well. The concern I have, Alasdair, apart from the time he will need to make the team understand his tactics that are completely different from the Sarri one, is that he's a little bit a character. He left Verona not because he was sacked, but because he didn't agree with the policy Verona had. The type of transfer market they was thinking to do the summer, the other summer. Same thing with Marseille. He quit just because he didn't agree with the sport director. I mean, I can easily see him quitting this summer after discussing with Lotito.
Yeah, that is the big thing we saw coming even last week, wasn't it? That temperament is a slight issue probably with Lotito to deal with. Yeah, I mean, like you said, he is clearly a good coach because he's got a good track record in his last couple of jobs. And his Verona team were great. They were really good to watch. Played nice football. Did a fantastic. I think it was their best ever finish, wasn't they? They came 9th, I think, under him. So yeah, he's got good pedigree. He's got good experience. He is one of those guys who's ready to kind of make the step up in this way. My doubts are more about how rushed it's been and the change of formation and the long-term planning. I think that's my main issue, and I think it's a really sticky situation now. I don't think he needs to rush into changing the way this team plays just because even this Frosinone game, we saw it. There's almost no leadership left for that match, and the players still managed to go out and they kind of know what to do. It's by now it's been so drilled into them for the last 2.5 years that they do know what to do. And I'm sure Tudor have his own ideas, but I think if he's smart about it, he shouldn't rush into completely altering the DNA of this team's football, because I think he'll only encounter more problems. In the summer, yeah. Not right now.
You're too young, but Verona, I remember Verona winning the Scudetto.
Oh my God, Vittorio.
Yeah.
Showing your age there.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I think Guendouzi is becoming such a leader of this team that he played with Tudor. So it looks like we have 3 players in the team that play with Tudor. Guendouzi, who had a fight with him. So that's something we have to find. Casale at Verona, and was probably the best season of Casale. And even Zaccagni, I think he played a little bit with Tudor at Verona. So I don't know. I don't think he will wait to switch to a 3-5-2. I think he's going to do it immediately, straight away. And to be honest, he has 2 weeks to get ready for Juventus now. So, but going back to what you were saying, we didn't mention that Martuscello had to stay because otherwise there were no option. There were no manager available, and Fabiani couldn't find anybody to train this team till Frosinone. So this tells you how unprepared this team is, this organization is. I mean, you're Lazio. You should have been promoting someone from the Primavera to manage this team at least 4 days, to coach them, to train them. Instead, it was only Martuscello who stayed till yesterday, just because otherwise this team would have been training all week long.
Crazy. It is crazy. And it still takes a bit of, it's been a while now, but I'm still kind of amazed we've ended up in this situation, to be honest. It feels like it all happened so quickly. But I mean, I guess, the one good thing is the timing does mean there is an international break. There is a little bit of a period for Tudor to come in and, get his feet under the desk and work out what he's going to do. Because if he came in 2 weeks' time and suddenly is a game every 3 days, and I mean, it would be complete chaos. I mean, obviously, we will lose a few players probably over the international break. I saw Isaksen's been called up to Denmark. I don't know how many others are going, though. There's not many in the Italy squad, really.
No, there's only Zaccagni. I think Isa is going. So that should be it. I don't think Vecino has been called. So we should be...
Right. Okay, well, that's not bad then. So, yeah, I mean, good luck to him, Tudor. I hope he knows what he is getting himself into here.
We have to mention something. Apart, I want to ask you about Kamada before we wrap it up. But I was talking with a journalist close to Tudor, and he told me he didn't want to go to Napoli. He chat with De Laurentiis and said, no, thank you. Even though, can we say Napoli is a bigger team than Lazio? Well, they won the Scudetto last year, so they should be considered a bigger team than Lazio. And he said, no, thank you to De Laurentiis. Then he talked with Lotito, and, well, if he doesn't change idea before the starting next week, he should be the Lazio manager. So there's something about Lazio that he liked. He was convinced. I hope there is a project that Lotito talked about a project, but we have to mention as well that he said no to Napoli and yes to Lazio. Lotito said he also said no to Roma. I don't believe it, to be honest with you, but we know for sure that he said to De Laurentiis, no, thank you.
I mean, I read part of that was that De Laurentiis wanted him to play 4-3-3. So if he's turning down jobs for the idea of playing 4-3-3, then what are the chances of him keeping this team playing it? Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand what you do with that defense. We've only got 4 centre backs and half of them aren't fit most of the time. I mean, you could probably turn Marisic or Husai into a kind of right centre back or left centre back, but you're talking about starting a kind of new positional project out of nowhere. Marisic maybe did it 2 or 3 times under Inzaghi, as far as I remember. But yeah, it's a big, it's going to be a big change. I mean, maybe, like being optimistic for a second, it might blow a bit of fresh air into things, shake up this team a bit. I think they did show something at Frosinone, the fact that it was on them to win the game pretty much, and they managed to do that was really encouraging. So we'll see. It's just really hard to predict. I have no idea which way this season is going to go now.
Do you think Kamada will have an advantage now? Because I was surprised to see him coming in and playing left wing again. And I thought he played, not sure if his best match with Lazio, but definitely he did have a huge impact, a good impact. And maybe switching to the 3-5-2, it's what, or 3-4-2-1, or how you want to call it. Maybe it's the best option for Kamada, right? He looks to me to be more suited to that idea of Tudor football rather than Luis Alberto Vecino.
Well, that's more where he played with Frankfurt, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think. Well, I mean, there's a lot of players who it won't benefit positionally, but I think he's one who it could do, and everyone's got a chance now. I mean, you mentioned Guendouzi. It's quite funny in a way because he's been having the time of his life under Sarri, and now he's back where he started last year. But yeah, I think it will be interesting to see how that midfield looks, because if you're suddenly only having 2 central midfielders, and we basically have loads of central midfielders and not much else, I don't really know how they structure that attack. If you're playing 1 up front with 2 behind, are the 2 behind going to be the wingers coming in like Zaccagni Isaksen, or is it going to be pushing up Alberto more advanced, or pushing up Kamada more advanced? Or there's a lot of questions. I mean, well, we don't have the answers yet, so we can come back to this once we see Tudor getting to work. But yeah, it's interesting.
I fear something, Alasdair. We already talked that this summer probably there would have been a big revolution. Well, now it's for sure, right? I think talking about the wingers, if we play with a 3-4-2-1, we don't need them. So I think Lazio will gonna sell a lot of players this summer and trying to sign players that are more suited to the Tudor's type of football. We were thinking the opposite, right? Changing to get players more adapt to the Sarri ball, but now it's different. Question mark on Isaacsen, Felipe Anderson, Zaccagni, just to talk about the strikers. But even Luis Alberto, not sure he's 100% suited to that game. His eye and so on. So there's a lot of things going on, and I really feel that this summer could be a really revolution for the club, for the players.
Well, I mean, it'll have to be if that is the system that's going to be used, which he will want to use. So yeah, it'll have to be. Just the squad just isn't suited for it. So, and that's something we touched on last time, and I think it might be needed. It might be time for a bit of a squad revolution anyway. So, having a different formation could be a kind of convenient reason to do that. I just hope we don't kind of, throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't want to see us kind of give up on good players we have in there as a result of a tactical shift. I don't want them to suddenly throw out Isaacsen because he's not got a role in there, or Ravella or whatever. I still think we need to keep faith in the good young players we've brought in who are showing something.
Yeah, honestly, I think Rovella can adapt and had played in a 5-man midfield, so I thought he's good with that. And I think Isaacsen can adapt in a certain way. I mean, it depends on him, obviously. But yeah, I think we have to try to sell our oldest players, and maybe probably after the words Lotito spoke, do you think Chio's going to leave this summer? He's going to ask to leave after what the owner said about him?
We'll have to see. I mean, it's kind of the whole season. It's felt like it's moving more and more in that direction, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Between kind of interviews, things he said, his dip in form, the possibilities open to him if Saudi offers are still there. It would be a shame because it seemed destined to retire Lazio. It seemed like the right thing to happen for everyone. But yeah, I mean, he might get a new lease of life under Tudor. Who knows? I still think he's still a great player. There's still a great player in there, and he deserves a lot more support than he's been getting, certainly over this last week. So hopefully we'll see that before the end of the season, and Taty as well. Hope can build on finally having a game where he scores a couple of goals.
Yeah, we just have to convince him that we're playing Frosinone again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, every game is against Frosinone.
It's Frosinone-slayer.
It's not Juventus. It's Frosinone again. But,
yeah.
Anyway, thanks, Alasdair, for joining me. Thanks, everybody, for listening to our podcast. Please rate and review the podcast, or if you're on YouTube, subscribe to our channel. And we're going to be back probably after the international break to recap Lazio Juventus, the first Lazio Juventus of the season. We're going to have 3 games against Juventus going forward, 2 for Coppa Italia and the last one of the Campionato. So thanks again, everybody, for listening. Thanks, Alasdair, for being with me tonight. And we're going to be back as soon as possible. Take care.